We are delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you today, to a pretty large audience, about the Message Design Dashboard. This is a project that has been in development for several years, and we're just really excited to be able to show you how far we've come. So you just heard all about the different contents that need to be included in a warning message. That includes the source, the name of the threat, and the impacts or consequences of it, the location, the protective actions that are being recommended, and the message expiration or the time to take action. And Dr. Olson went over the number of WIAs in the last decade that have included these different contents, but I want to show you what that actually looks like in a few messages before I jump in and show you how the MDD is going to help you to write better messages. So you saw that 27% of standard of practice WIAs did not include the hazard name, and this is what it looks like when it does not. An example on the left reads, County Office of Emergency Management, leave area south of Folsom Lake or move to higher ground now. Avoid area until further notice and check the website for updates. If you include the name of the hazard, it increases people's understanding of what exactly you're asking them to leave. And the reason, which in this case, we put in red and all caps, dam failure imminent. An effective message will also include hazard impacts. We saw that 79% standard of practice WIAs do not include hazard impacts. And of course, this is a lower number for 90-character messages. But this is what a chemical release message looks like without hazard impacts on the left. City emergency management, a chemical release has occurred at city center. If outside or driving, go inside the nearest building, stay indoors until further notice. And on the right, in the red, we've added information about what the chemical release could do to people who are exposed by adding information about exposure may cause difficulty breathing, loss of coordination, burning sensation in eyes, nose, throat, or lungs. And that is followed by recommended protective actions that are relative to what people are being exposed to. An effective message will also include time. We saw that about 62% standard of practice messages do not include the time. On the left, you see an example for a winter storm warning that says the snow will be heavy and wet with possibility of power outages, but does not tell people when that event might begin or end. So on the right, we added in the red text that the winter storm warning will occur from 7 p.m. Saturday until Sunday at 1 p.m., which gives people an idea of how much time they have to prepare and how long they should expect that winter storm will continue. An effective message will also include the source of the message. So imagine that on the left, it just said winter storm warning and that the snow will be heavy, but left out mountain emergency management. For a population that is unfamiliar with who this message might come from, they would not know that it was an authoritative source such as mountain emergency management. We also know that an effective message will include location. About 15% of messages, standard of practice messages, did not include location. This is, as you saw earlier, one of the most frequently included pieces of content. And in this case, we added on the right-hand side in red where the police incident was occurring, which is at the city center near the Spindle Library, which helps people to understand if they are within the vicinity of the police incident and why it's important in that area to remain inside and lock their doors. And finally, an effective message will include guidance. Approximately 30% standard of practice WIAs did not include guidance. On the left side, we see an example of Prairie Emergency Services wildfire warning in effect for areas east of 180 and South Lake Drive, and to check for more information. Checking for more information is a sort of guidance, but it's more idle, asking people to do something to learn what they should do. But instead, if you include that information about what they should do, which is what we've done in the red on the right, you see that we've told them to leave now and not to use 180 because the road is blocked. So over the course of the last few years, we've heard many times that what you would most like for writing messages for IPAWS and for WIAs is messaging templates. And we decided to give you something that will allow you instead to craft your own messages. And this is where we've designed the Message Design Dashboard, which I'm going to share with you next. The process of developing the MDD, we went through a pretty extensive process over the last 2 years. Some of those people who are on this call, thank you for giving us your time and expertise and helping us to do this better. We started by analyzing data sets of existing messages. We narrowed it down to the top 48 hazards, 112 protective action statements over 3 different time periods. Every statement included in the MDD was vetted by subject matter experts. That includes the impact statements as well as the guidance statements. They were also verified by risk communications scholars to simplify the language and make sure it's understandable for message receivers. We've also conducted public message testing for both imminent and non-imminent threats. We've looked at the standard of practice messages versus messages that are generated by the MDD. And we can share with you that the MDD messages do increase people's understanding and ability to take action. We've also worked with you to do our software design. We've conducted usability testing and included user interaction at every step of the process. You are going to enter into some static images of the MDD. I'm going to introduce you to the different areas on each page of the dashboard, and then we're going to watch a 5-minute video of somebody actually creating a message. When you have logged into the dashboard, you will have the opportunity to create a 360 character or a 90 character WIA. We suggest starting with 360 because as you're building the 360, the 90 character will populate alongside of that message. On the left-hand side, you will see resources that can link you out to IPAW's technical support facility and also the IPAW's best practices guide. At the bottom of the screen, you will see messages that you have created previously that you can access, which is a great opportunity. If you develop messages in advance of events, these will be stored in your own login space. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that we walk you through step by step from going from the source to the hazard information, the impact statement, protective actions, expiration, and ask you to edit and review before you take and paste that message directly into your origination software. So we start with the source information, which will be populated either by you at the time of your message writing or pre-populated when you're doing your preparation activities. We also provide notes below to as cues in case you've forgotten what kind of information you might need to include in each of those boxes. On the right-hand side, you'll see a preview of the message. Here we show you the 360 character WIA message preview, and at the bottom of the phone screen, you'll see how many characters you've used out of 360. This takes you then to the hazard information. We have all 48 hazards listed in the drop-down menu, and you'll see when we go through the live video what those look like. And then on the right-hand side, you have the opportunity to choose either the event is happening or will happen in the future. That changes the verb tense of your message. When you choose your hazard, you will also be choosing the impact statement that goes along with that hazard, and it will automatically populate into the preview. At that point, you would then customize or edit the hazard impact statement, because with each impact statement, you will find information that's contained in brackets, editing to make it more personal to your location. The information in brackets would include things like the time, the location, things like may or will, mandatory or voluntary. And in this case for wildfire, we know that there are at least 5 different ways that jurisdictions communicate about wildfire. And so in the impact statement, we do give you the option of selecting things like level 1, level 2, level 3, or mandatory or voluntary evacuation, and you edit based upon what your community uses to communicate those things. Once that information has been edited, moving on to the protective actions. We provide a list of protective actions to select from for each hazard. In the video, you'll see the number of actions that we've included. For purposes of demonstration, we have not necessarily chosen all or the best impact statements. We're just demonstrating how this works. So you see here that we've selected do not enter, and if you're alone and unable to evacuate, contact local authorities. which starts to show up in the preview screen on the right. Those things also give you the opportunity to edit, and then you will go to the edit and review screen, which shows you in the green and the red the review checklist that helps you to identify whether or not all of your brackets have been filled and adjusted, that all of the characters are compatible with iPause so that they won't show up in funny text on somebody's screen. And you're also asked to check to make sure that 911 has been replaced with 9-1-1, which allows text to be machine readable to people who have auditory challenges. You would then see what it will preview like in the screen on the right. And when you click on the 90 character WIA, it would then take you back to the beginning to show you where you needed to edit to complete the 90 character message, which you will see in the video walkthrough, which I think is next. So this is the full walkthrough that we just discussed, pointing out the different areas that you could click on will take you to live information. And in this case, we're choosing the 360 character WIA, which takes you to the organization information. The text box tells you what information to include. And again, it also provides you a note, which informs you about what to include. You click on next step, which gives you the list of all of the different hazards that you might write for, and you select your timing. And that automatically populates the impact statement on the right. Here are the different hazards that we've included. Practicing with this ahead of time will get you really familiar with what kinds of hazards are in there, because not every hazard you might deal with is going to be in there, but we have identified the top 48 hazards. And this is the screen where you see that our writer is beginning to edit the text. We've also included all caps for specific words, and we do that because that helps to draw attention to particular words. Visual attention is really important. When a message is 360 characters long, you want people's eyes to be drawn to it, or at least to highlight the things that are most important for them to see in this field of text. So by highlighting in all caps the word wildfire, if people are only looking for what is this message about and trying to understand if it applies to them, they're going to quickly see that. So you see how fast this person at the desk is editing and moving on to the next step. Their message is building really fast. They have 225 characters used, and now they're selecting their protective actions. When you select your protective actions, you will learn that you need to select them in the order that you want them to show up on the screen. And there's always the opportunity to go back at the end and edit your text. The little notes in the red give you additional cues, like if you're adding something about contact information, make sure that the URL that you send someone to can handle the traffic that you're providing. In this case, the writer is adding information about the location and going to the other set of brackets to make sure that they've completed the information about evacuating. And they're also going to add in the URL information, or 911 information in this case. And then they're going to go on to the next step, which provides the review checklist. All of their brackets have been filled. The characters are compatible with iPause, but they need to go back and add in the dashes into 911 to make it machine readable. They've now used 339 characters out of 360. They click on next step, and they get a preview of that 360 character message. At this point, they go back to the 90 character message to begin creating that. However, a lot of the content that they had already created for 360 is present, so they don't have to go through as many steps. Here, they are going to replace the information about the location because they have room in their message. And we also know that increasing message specificity about the location will reduce delays in people making their decision to take action. But we also know that when you have 360 characters, you can add a lot more specificity. And so we're going to encourage you to do that when you write your messages. How quick that was to complete 90 characters. That message is 72 characters long out of 90. In less than 5 minutes, they've built 2 wildfire messages that follows the workflow that research has said, this is the way you should do it. It's complete. It's as accurate as it can be. And next, we're going to tell you when you get access to this And I know that you heard at the beginning of the presentation by Michael George that this is going to be available to you soon. We have a couple of trainings that are coming up. The first one that you can attend is on November 4th, on the Saturday of the IAEM pre-conference trainings from 9 a.m. to noon. We will be holding an in-person training. You will have the opportunity to log in and mess around with the dashboard and play with it and really get your hands onto that technology. We also will have a virtual training coming up in December. I believe it is on the 7th of December, which is a Thursday. Information is going to be coming soon about how to participate in that. We are intending and scheduling trainings throughout the next fiscal year, beginning with this first one on November 4th. We will continue through October of next year, presenting in different parts of the country in collaboration with FEMA regions, as well as some conferences. So if you cannot make it to the IAEM meeting or to the virtual meeting, please keep a watch out on LinkedIn announcements, social media announcements, and also things that come out through the IPAWS group to let you know when you can come and participate in a training session. I do want to thank, again, all of the volunteers who contributed to this project. You've spent hours and hours with us. We appreciate those who traveled to Albany to work with us and help to provide feedback on the training that is being developed. And also thank you so much to the IPAWS team for having the vision to make this happen. We are thrilled with what we've been able to build. There's my contact information if you want to directly communicate with me. And also, if you're looking for more tips on how to write effective messages, you can visit thewarrenroom.com. A lot of the content that is included in the MDD is also included in the Warren Room. And so it's available right now and for you to take a look at. I saw lots of chat popping up as I was talking, but I paid zero attention to it. So is there anything that I should try to address live?
Yes, there's a great question from Jim asking, will this format be a standard format for all IPAWS vendors?
So you can choose how you want to write your messages. This is the standard format that is recommended based upon 30 years of research and the technology that we have designed following that research. You are not mandated to use the MDD or this format. However, if you do, you are going to increase people's ability to take action, and you will have a complete message, and it will reduce people's delay as they're looking for more information and trying to figure out what to do. So that's kind of an academic way of saying, we sure hope so, but it's not going to be mandated.
Pivoting to languages, there was a few people that asked about Spanish languages. One that comes to mind is Amy asking, when do you foresee the potential of adding a Spanish template?
So that, I know that's been a question that's come up several times in the chat throughout the webinar this morning. We have had conversations with IPAWS about doing investigations into this area, and they're very serious about it. We're very serious about it. And so as soon as we've gotten some green lights to proceed in that direction, we will move in that direction. I do want to caution that it's taken us 2 years to get to this point. So no immediate promises for it getting out immediately. However, we have started exploring how to make it possible. And also if this is the best strategy for moving forward, because we do know that the FCC has asked for various approaches to doing multiple languages. And we want to make sure that it's not only the best way for message receivers to get an actionable message, but it's also the best way for you as message writers to actually construct the message. So it has to be on both sides.
One question, it was posted by Lisa and then reposted by another. Do you anticipate this being an interface to the alerting authority programs instead of a cut paste to make it faster?
I think that means things like the existing software that's being used in different agencies. We currently, my team does not have an intention of providing that directly to those software providers. However, the iPause team, that FEMA will own this shortly, and they will be able to make that decision. There may be some real benefits of integrating it in, but there's also some real value of making this accessible to everyone who is an alert originator, even if they're not part of the iPause program, because alerts go out over lots of different short messaging channels.
My apologies, I was muted. There's a question from Wendell asking, what are your thoughts on the use of emotion or sentiment and other linguistic-based concepts, such as AVES, slang, acronyms within a template-based WIA, and the potential impact these factors to nudge or encourage the public to utilize WIAs?
That's getting into all kinds of communication theory, which is great. We have not included any of those additional tweaks that you might use if you were trying to design for a particular audience. WIAs are intended to reach a very broad audience, to be accessible to as many people as possible. However, I can say acronyms should be limited, eliminated as much as possible. And any language that you use that is in any WIA should be as accessible to as many people as possible also. So the use of slang, the use of jargon and technical terms, we want to try to reduce that or eliminate that. And we used all caps and exclamation points and things like that in order to increase urgency. And so that should also increase people's motivation to take action.